Hello there. It's paper 3 time. I want to give you all a rundown of the assignment sheet so that you will have the permanence of the traditional classroom setting, and then also feel that some of these requirements are better understood on your part because I've been able to explain them to you, or at least read them to you in a way that I would in a traditional classroom setting. And in this assignment sheet, you will still find that all of these requirements up top are at least organized in the same way as they would be for all of the other ones. But this assignment is going to look a bit different than any of the other ones that you've seen from me because I have given you compact prompts for the plays themselves. So we'll start at the top so that you understand all of the logistics, word count, research, organization, all of that before we move into the prompts themselves. So the requirements for this paper is that I want you to write at least 1,100 words and keep it around 1,200-ish. If you go over a little bit of 1,300, that's the maximum. I'm not going to be too upset, but then still, keep it as close to 1,300 as you can. If you are writing and you just feel this big, swift of inspiration and you have to have a little bit more, just talk to me so that I can be on track with your own progress. And of course, that 1,100 words minimum only counts the essay, not any of the other trappings that you would put in the document. I just want the 1,100 words to be the essay only minimum. Research should also look familiar. I will ask that students find 3 reputable sources. I hope that you will use the advice given here that you would find a source per body paragraph. Not every source is going to focus on suffering. Not every source is going to focus on memory, for instance. So if you have you do have a basis in research and these particular databases, and because both the Glass Menagerie and Death of a Salesman have been written about ad nauseum, I don't think that any of you will find any hardship in research this time. It'll just be finding the bits of information, the cherry picking in these research articles that will best help to support the argument that you will write for me in paper 3. Use Literature Resource Center, the ebook collection, and JSTOR, and I would try them in that order too. Next, since we're still in research, note that I don't want any sort of Google search. Let's keep it just all in the library because that is where the best reputable information is, and the scholarship that will be in kind with the attitude and mindset that I want you to have for this play that you choose. And I do that not to inhibit you from Google and being able to peruse a search engine that you are familiar with. But when you take literature, and we're almost there, kind of toward the end of the semester here with paper 3, that once you take your literature class, you will also be expected to maintain the same academic voice and contribute to the conversations about any of the works that you write about in your literature class, if it be early European, modern American, whatever it is that you have to take for your career track. And keeping it within the library will be the status quo for you, and I want to establish that ground for you now so that you're used to it and it's not so much of a culture shock once you get to your literature class. I promise you, I'm always working for you and thinking about you in the future. So keep it in the library. Organization is standard, is what we've been doing. Your MLA expectations are all the same too. In citing a play, the play that you choose will be your primary source, just as the short story was for paper 1, your 3 poems for paper 2, and your 1 poem here your 1 play here for paper 3. In citing a play, I've given you a link here. It's so easy. You just need the page number and a semicolon and then the act number. But that document pretty well sums it up, makes it as simplified as possible for you to add in your citations for your play whenever you cite from it, and then your journal articles for both the in-text citation and the works cited citation, just as I have asked of you all semester. All right, so here we're going to get into the prompts a little bit. First, because it is just a paper that spans from 1,100 to 1,300 words, it would be a bit gratuitous and a much harder research and argumentative process for you if you had to do any compare and contrast at all. I'm not going to ask you to do that. I want you to choose one play. So, if you are one of those people that really love Tennessee Williams' The Glass Menagerie, then please write your paper about The Glass Menagerie. If you're on the other side and you really connected with Death of a Salesman and feel that's the one that you could better write about, then choose that one. It's up to you. Some folks may have not read as closely in one and feel a bit more confident in the other one. I leave that up to you because I really like students to have choice. So choose one of the plays, Tennessee Williams' The Glass Menagerie or Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman, because the prompts that follow here, if you see as I scroll down, are attributed to one play or the other. So let's look. If you're a Tennessee Williams, The Glass Menagerie person, these are the choices that you have among prompts. And there are 3 for each play. So let's look at this first one for The Glass Menagerie, which should look so familiar to you because it is derived from our work in Dramatic Visions really early on in the unit. It reads as such: recall the characteristics of tragedy and comedy. Based on your reading, understanding of genres, and research, how should we categorize The Glass Menagerie? Is it a pure tragedy or is it a tragicomedy? And the argumentative hinge for your thesis statement will be exactly that. The Glass Menagerie is a tragedy because. And you could look back to all of the characteristics of tragedy, a tragic hero, all of the tragic struggles, tragic methods, and use those as a basis to prove your argument true, because you're able to see any of those characteristics from the dramatic visions reflected in the play. The same will go for a tragicomedy. The tragicomedy is the harder argument, but it has been done and has been done over and over again, just as the tragedy has been done, because this play is up to our interpretation. Remember, Tennessee Williams did not conform to these conventions of theater, but to certain folks, they would interpret the play as more of a tragedy depending on who they identified with, what sections of the play they honed in on, which ones they prioritize over other ones. So some folks may think it more of a tragedy, but then others may think of it more what we would call a modern drama or a tragicomedy. So in your paper, you'll provide the research and analysis and ultimately prove your point as to which type of play or which type of genre you would categorize The Glass Menagerie. Pretty simple. That one's easily done. In your second choice, you'd have to do a little bit more research into this, but then there are also graphs that you can look at on the internet that are similar to the ones that I've given you of tragedy and tragicomedy in order to inform some of your ideas and structure. But this one could be fun for those of you that would like to argue outside of the realm of genre and explore some other characteristics of drama that are outside the conversations about genre specifically. So in number 2, one of your choices, you can write about this. In your research preparation for this paper, explore the classic versus romantic tension in drama as a whole. A tension we alluded to in the inherent structure of a play. Scholars disagree and continue to redefine what it means to write a well-made play. The structure of that has gone under much scrutiny as to what actually makes a well-made play. Aristotle's three forms, or his three principles about what it means to write a successfully cohesive play, have evolved, obviously, since ancient Greece, whenever Aristotle was writing in the first place. So a well-made play is still under definition, or redefinition, rather. So if you decide to explore what is classic and what is romantic in the tensions of this play, The Glass Menagerie, then your argumentative prompt is this, which is I've always put in bold for you for each section. In this essay, prove the classic versus romantic tensions in The Glass Menagerie through avenues of plot, characterization, setting, and symbolism. You would choose three of those, is what you would do. You would choose three. And how this tension contributes to our overall understanding of the play. So there'll be classic elements of plot, there'll be romantic elements of plot, there'll be classic staples of characterization, and then romantic ones. But what you would do in your argumentative hinge and say this is a more classically structured play than a romantically structured play. Or you could argue the opposite. The Glass Menagerie is structured more romantically than classically, because reason 1, 2, and 3. And those reasons can be based on those literary elements that I've listed for you in the bold section. All right. And then for The Glass Menagerie, third choice up here. Explore the structure and artistic concept of Williams' coined dramatic type called the memory play. I talked to you all about this in the Tennessee Williams lecture. Despite the limitations and rigid space of theater, Williams succeeded in staging a believable yet naturally indulged narrative through one man's memory. Discuss in your paper, more argue in your paper, possibly of Williams and or characters in the play, of how memory affects plot, characterization, setting, and symbolism. You would choose three. In The Glass Menagerie. So you do some work about the role of memory. You can even do some scientific research about memory, psychoanalytic research about memory. This paper can be a lot of fun, and you can make it your own in order to further expound upon this large idea of what it means to write a memory play and stage it in a rigid space whenever memory is so big. And like I said in the Glass Menagerie lecture, we soften some parts and we amplify others to satisfy our own narrative, because we are all the star of the movie playing in our own heads. I'm interested to see which ones students will choose if you choose The Glass Menagerie as the play that you will focus on. And this one about memory can be really challenging, but it's most rooted in the scholarship about Tennessee Williams, and students usually have a lot of fun researching for the memory one. All right, those are your choices for The Glass Menagerie. If The Glass Menagerie is your choice, I hope any of those are doable for you. Please talk to me if you have any more questions about The Glass Menagerie.